I was talking to this guy. He's having issues with his now wife, right? And admittedly, this is the guy that had a lot of trauma in his life, in his early childhood, things with his mom and his parents and stuff happened. And it's been a really rough life, right? And so he's been that guy that's kind of like can be very pushy with his opinions and gets angry very easily at times or whatever. And so we were having an honest conversation, and he was telling me that things at home, he said he hadn't hooked up with his wife in weeks and that things are kind of bad. And I was like, well, what's going on? And he said, I'll be honest, like I am that guy that goes home from a hard day's work and yells at his wife. Like she tries to come to me and ask me things or do things. And I just, I get triggered. And I said, well, what causes the triggers? And he said, well, honestly, it's because of childhood trauma. Like I dealt with this, and this. And so, I have these triggers and I snap this, snap. And so I told him, I said, that's great and all, but realistically, like nobody cares about your problems. Like we will have empathy for your problems, but if your problems and your traumatic past affect the way that you're interacting with me, that now becomes a problem. So I said, most women are admittedly, because I know women get a bad rip for at a drop of the hat, they're going to leave this net. I have found that most women will deal with a lot. Like if they're with a guy that they love and they can legitimately see it going long-term, they'll put up through cheating. They'll put up with being yelled at. They'll put up with all kinds of bad treatment for a long time. But at some point, that woman will leave when she's had enough. And so I told him, I said, realistically, like you can keep using her as a punching bag, but what's going to happen inevitably is that over time, she's going to start to realize like this. And again, they dated for a long time before they got married. So it could just be she had a traumatic childhood too, and she's used to just treatment, and that could be her comfort zone. But I said, usually most women at some point get the galls to leave, So anyway, so after that part of the conversation, he then said, he talked about the whole hookup thing again. He was saying like, yeah, like, I have to get used to the idea that, my wife's going to want less sex because that's always how it goes. That's what normally happens in marriages. And I looked at him and I was like, that's not a normal thing. And he said, what are you talking about? And he said the whole thing of like women starting to lose attraction for their husbands and not wanting to have sex with them, like that's a normal thing. I said, yeah, it's normal in situations where, and let's be fair, right? There are some women that they get married. I found like birth control affects a woman's sexuality. So like she could have been attracted to you while she was on birth control. And then once she gets off birth control, then she just realizes, oh, you're not the guy that I want, right? And then there are also women that like they marry guys for their money. Look, women can use guys, right? So we're going to get that out of the way. Sometimes that happens. But more often than not, what I found happens is, and men don't want to admit this, they get into a relationship, they think they got the woman, they get lazy, they start treating her as less than, they start yelling at her, starting fights, saying that's so stupid, I'm not going to do that, how dare you try to change me, blah, 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 blah. And then the woman just is like, that doesn't make me feel like you understand me, that doesn't make me feel like you really care for me, this doesn't feel like empathy, and women's bodies are going to react and respond based on how you or the guy are treating them. So if you're treating them with respect, if you're showing them fun times, if you're acting like their opinions about things matter, if you're not getting triggered to fight them all the time, their bodies, I find, are naturally just like, I want to touch all over this guy. I want to feel this guy. I told him, I said, when I was dating this girl one time, we were on the verge of breaking up because we were starting to have, I'll say more disagreements, right? But even with that, she was still trying to hook up with me. So it's like, even in that state, the fact that she was still willing to hook up with me means that I wasn't treating her so bad that she wasn't still sexually attracted to me. So I said to him, if you're yelling at your wife all the time, if you're constantly triggered, if you're saying mean things to her at the end of the day, is it any wonder that her body would like steer away from you? But that's a lot of guys. A lot of guys end up being unaware that the ways they're showing up are making their women's bodies naturally just want to like not be with them. Like just completely like the woman can't get wet for you if you're yelling at her. Woman can't get wet for you if she feels misheard and misunderstood. Like that's just the way that women's bodies are. They're going to react positively to when they have positive feelings about you. If you are causing them to have negative feelings, is it any wonder that you wouldn't hook up? So I told them, I said, in my past, I've discovered that most women, they don't like, as if the relationship's going really good, they only want to do it more. Like to the point where like, they'd want to do it more than I do. Like I'm 42, my libido is starting to like go downhill. So I can regulatorily be like, if I just do it like 1 or 2 times a week, I'm pretty good. Most women I date, I find, because I treat them well, I know how to respect them, most of the stuff, then like they want to keep doing it and they want to create opportunities for us to do it. Like, hey, I bought us a hotel room this weekend to do some stuff. But that's what happens when you are doing the right stuff. So because this guy is saying like, oh, he's making an excuse of like, well, women's sexual drive just naturally falls off. That's just the norm. It's like, that's your norm, but also your norm is disrespecting your wife and not being kind to her. Like, so is it any wonder then that you're going to see that as the norm? But if you saw that growing up where like your dad or whoever also was disrespecting your mom or people in your family the guys in your family were disrespecting your aunts and your cousins and whatnot, then yeah, you're going to think that's the norm. I grew up in a family where a lot of relationships are positive. My mom and my dad can get enough of each other. My brother and his wife, like same thing. So it's like, but it really does speak to like the excuses we give ourselves to say that something is normal because that's what our reality is. And this is why I treat you guys, right? Is that you can't buy into the stories that you're telling yourself, and you can't buy into the stories that the world is telling you, or that the world's giving you indication might be true. Like this whole like, oh, women don't want to have sex with their husbands. Sorry, I grew up around people that women would love to have sex with their husbands and wanted to do things for them, wanted to be there, wanted to be able to take them away and all this other stuff. And I get it. Maybe just people in general, on average, are crappy people. But you have the opportunity to learn how to not be a crappy person. So when you get with a woman, she's going to want to do it all the time. That's why I got a website. That's why I got a YouTube channel, right? So you have the time and the ability to learn how to communicate better, how to understand how women think, so you won't just call them all crazy. And so as a result of that, they'll feel as though you can relate to them. And as a result, they'll want to have sex with you. It's amazing how often women want to hook up with you, including your wife, including your girlfriend, fiance, when they feel as though you understand them and don't see them as stupid. It is amazing. So I told this guy the same thing. He's like, what do you mean? Like, oh, yeah, like that's not normal, dude. It's only normal if you're doing all the wrong things and if you're treating her bad. So if you're treating your wife bad, yeah, the norm for you is going to be no sex. I said, you know what? You need to go home and straight up, like go home, take her some flowers. And then for the next week, if you feel yourself, because again, women might be empathetic towards your traumatic past. But if it affects them negatively, eventually they're going to stop caring, because all they care about is, did you fix the shit to make sure that you were able to show up in a way that she can better live with you, right? So I said for the next week, if she does something or says something, because he said she asked him a question and she was going to go out, and he just got mad. It wasn't like it was a nothing question, but he was already getting triggered about, oh, I know what this is supposed to mean, blah, blah, blah. I said, before you actually react, take 10 seconds and say, wait, I'm feeling a thing. Why do I feel this thing? Why am I feeling this anger? Why am I feeling upset? Is it something I ate today? Is it something that happened at the job today? Like, why am I feeling this anger in this moment for this thing that she said or did that, if I'm being an objective observer, is a nothing burger? Am I about to make this a bigger thing than it needs to be? And if so, why? I said, do that every single time. It's going to be hard. You have to like really concentrate on doing that, but do that for like a week and start to see where all this stuff lies, because it's not her. Like, she seems like she seems like a pretty decent person. So like, it seems like you need to work on stuff on your end. Now, there could be stuff on her end, and those are conversations to have, but you're the guy. You're the leader in the relationship and of the household. It starts with you. So if you're not able to analyze where you're going wrong, you definitely can't analyze where she's going wrong, because she's following you. Just some things to consider, guys. So I wanted to point out that conversation that I had, because it was just really like an interesting conversation that we had with that guy.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man.